getting into everything you need to know for the Charles Schwab Challenge. Let's go. All right, get into the course preview for the Charles Schwab Challenge. This is going to be played at Colonial Country Club, which is a Texas-based track. We have seen this course a decent amount. We kind of know what to expect, and honestly, that's the beauty of this week, is that we are easily able to dial in on what the key stats are going to be. So looking at the 9 to 5 course data sheet, it's easy to look and see it's going to be an accuracy-based track, and those are going to be the stats that we're going to need to be focusing on this week. So looking at, and we can tell this by like looking at driving distance compared to good drive percentage. Good drive percentage vastly has a better average finish in terms of results. Players are more likely to miss the cut if they struggled there, and then they're more likely to make the cut if they had a good drive percentage, finish top 10 and also win. Then we also see that accuracy-based stats pop up in terms of winning upside on second shots, okay? Greens and regulation, really big stat there. But we also see on stroke gain approach, ball striking as well, especially in terms of winning upside. So we're going to be looking at that. I do want to point out that this is very much a track in which, yes, you need to be making birdies on, as always, right? Like birdie or better percentage, and as well as like stroke gain approach, but stroke gain tee to green, stroke gain total, those are always going to be the key stats when looking back at previous year's results. We know that. The whole point of this course data sheet is to make our research process easier, and that is why I like to compare stuff like driving distance to good drive percentage. What does that tell us? Was more of a bomb and gouge, or was it an accuracy-based track? So I like to look at 200 plus compared to wedge. You know, was there a big difference there? So I like to look at birdie to bogey ratio and birdie or better percentage. And I think because right here, I think this is a big difference maker right here, is that because the top 10 upside was there, like you've got to be avoiding some bogeys as well. So we're going to be looking at birdie to bogey ratio as well. So based off of those constraints, we were able to figure out which players are going to be the top stat fits. Let's look at that. So the top stat fits in the field, number 1, Scotty Scheffler. And these are the top 4 stats I look at, guys. Strokes gained total, always look at that. Effective scoring, that 9 to 5 only stat, which measures both safety and upside, looking at that. And then good drive percentage, ball striking, strokes gained approach, greens and regulation, birdie to bogey ratio, and a little bit of total driving. Okay. Based off of that, these are the top stat fits. And, you know, no too much shocks on the top end, at least for the top 4. But then we see Dylan Wu, Hayden Buckley popping in there. A little shocking. We got Akshay popping up in there. And this is really going to tell us kind of the field and the DFS tournament that we have. It's kind of a little bit wild and whack. It's probably going to be a studs and duds week just because of the lack of safety it feels like we have with some of the pricing. And as this video develops, you'll know exactly what I mean. Let's go and look at course history real quick. So course history wise, when we look at players that have multiple starts, we have very few that have like elite course history. One of those players is going to be Jordan Spieth, who kind of been citing a little bit of an injury, okay, withdrew the week prior to the PGA Championship because of that, but he's finished top 10 or better 4 straight years at this track. Obviously, that's phenomenal. We got Tony Finau as well, 4 straight years of finishing top 25 or better, and I phrase it that way because honestly, if we get a top 25 place finish out of him, sure, that would hurt a little bit, but with the upside, we know with Tony Finau to go on and win, like I think we would take that. We'd be happy to lock that in. I think especially this week. Kyle Morikawa, 3 straight make cuts. Victor Hovland, 2 straight top 25 finishes. Tyler Duncan popping up in there. Rory Sabatini, interesting there. And then we start to get into like the mostly good course history. Brian Harman, 3 out of 4 make cuts. Brennan Todd, 2 out of 3 make cuts, 2 of those being top 10 finishes. Maverick McNeely, okay stuff. Justin Rose, okay stuff. And that's part of the theme this week, is that it's definitely not a lock and load week. Let's go and look at the top golfers in recent form. So recent form wise, no real shock on the top end with Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau coming in 5th, you know, not too big of a difference. Tommy Fleetwood, Denny McCarthy. Then we got Ricky Fowler, Sungjae Im, even after that missed cut. And that's what I want to point out, is that there is a lot of worry with some of these players that are coming in off of like missed cuts relatively recently. Sungjae Im, Taylor Moore, okay stuff there. 8 straight make cuts though. We got Jordan, Justin Rose been solid. Benny Ann, like it's just kind of a worry with some of the starts that we're getting out of players. Okay. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at the specialist page. So the specialist page, it's designed to do what? I mention this every single week. It's designed to put in all those unique characteristics for that week's tournament that are a lot of times just fun talking points for people. I wanted to put that into a data point that actually presents actionable information. And if you guys feel like one data point is going to be more significant this week, you can filter in by that. Say you wanted to look at location, you could potentially do that. Maybe use that as a 50-50 tiebreaker if you're tied between 2 players. Like let's say you were tied between Victor Hovland and Tony Finau this week. Maybe you'd see that Victor Hovland has a little bit better starts on Texas-based tracks over the last 5, and you'd go with Victor Hovland. It's a good way to go about using it. But enough with that. Let's go ahead and get into the top picks this week in each price point tier. So starting off, we got Scotty Scheffler here. And the only worry with Scotty Scheffler is that he has bad course history. And that's funny to say because last year he lost in the playoff. But prior to that miscut and a 55th place finish, especially for Scotty Scheffler's golf game, that is bad course history. He actually ranks 36th in the field in course history rank. Besides that, he is the top stat fit in general and also in multiple key stats that we were looking at this week in the field. Best recent form, best specialist, top play in the 9 to 5 model. I do think if you can afford to pay for him, you want to be doing that. I mean, basically every start has been top 12 or better this season. Okay, one bad start at the CJ Cup. Like, who cares? That's why we don't really care about that one at all. Then from there, we got Tony Finau and Victor Hovland, who are both going to be great plays. Tony Finau finished 72nd at the PGA Championship. At least he made the cut is the way I look at it, to extend his made cut streak to 14 straight. Obviously, we'd like that. He's the second best specialist, third best course history, fourth best stat rank, fifth best recent form, third best pick in the 9 to 5 mile this week. I do think it's very easy to be able to afford Tony Finau and Victor Hovland in your builds if you choose to do so. And I'll touch on that as the video progresses, just because we have a lot of dead price point ranges. Okay, Victor Hovland, yeah, he's looking like a great play. The biggest worry that I have with Victor Hovland all the time is that, does he have winning upside in these really good caliber fields? And I do think, like, watching him at the PGA Championship, I know he kind of choked, but he kind of didn't. It did seem a different mentality from him. And so now I feel like we can kind of expect maybe some winning upside out of him. He's going to be the third best specialist, sixth best in course history rank, third best stat fit, second best in recent form, second best pick in the 9 to 5 mile. He's finished 21st and 23rd at this track. Should be a strong play. I guess the worry with him would be how concentrated is he going to be coming in after not being able to clutch up on the PGA Championship win. That would be my only concern, but I do like him as a play at his price point. Then obviously Max Homa, Kyle Morikawa, those are going to be fine plays, but I do really like Jordan Spieth this week at 9.9. The worry that a lot of people are going to have is the poor recent form, the withdrawal, and the potential that he's injured. I finished 29th at the PGA Championship, and guys, he was pretty bad at the PGA Championship, and he was able to finish 29th, top 30. Coming to a track where he has tremendous course history, 7th best in specialist ranking. The worry is that he's not a good stat fit. His game tends to turn around on this track. So if you want to take that risk, you could. I'd be fine with that. Then from there, I am perfectly fine going back to the well with Sungjae Im. The worry with him is that this has actually been a track that he's been very hit or missing. And so if there was ever a tournament to have some pause with him, I guess it would be this week. Okay. 15th miscut, 10th miscut. So if his game's on, he's going to be good. He's going to give us that top 10 upside that we want. The data backs that up as well, but I don't like the hit or miss nature. That feels a little bit too risky this week, which sounds weird with Sungjae Im, even though he's coming off of a miscut, had one terrible round. We know that. Typically speaking, he's a very safe golfer. Justin Rose is actually a play that's really popping up this week as a great play. Top 5 pick in the 9 to 5 model. Sucked last year at this track, but 20th, 3rd, 58th, good stuff. Besides that, top 5 specialist, top 20 in all the other key metrics that we're looking at. Pretty good form, 5 straight make cuts. If you end up on them, I'm fine with that. Okay. I also really like Tommy Fleetwood this week. Man, if there's ever a week for Tommy Fleetwood to win a PGA Tour event, kind of feels like it's this week. Okay. Coming in some good recent form, been kind of trending in the right direction for quite some time now. We have finally started to see some recent upside finishes from him as well. 3rd place finish at the Valspar, 5th place finish at the Wells Fargo Championship. All good stuff there. He's actually the 4th best pick in the 9 to 5 mile. That's going to be because strong recent form, good course history, top 5 specialist. Then actually Chris Kirk, not a bad play there as well. Let's go ahead and drop down into that mid-tier price point tier. And so from there, if I'm fine going back to the well with Sungjae Im, I'm going to be perfectly fine going back to the well with Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler does not have good course history though. 57th and then 2 missed cuts. Now we know Ricky in years past was not the old Ricky. There's a weird 3-year lull, 4-year lull in there where he was not good. Last week, he could not make a putt on Friday. Lost like 2 strokes putting. It's not like he was playing terribly either, just missed the cut on the number. You know, that happens. Prior to that, had basically been a top 25 machine. Still coming in top 10 recent form, top 15 specialist, top 10 stat fit. So all signs point to Ricky having a really good week. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him win. You'll get like Jason Day, who won recently off of a missed cut. That could really just be what happens to Ricky. You know, sometimes you just need that mental reset when you're playing great golf, couldn't get it done, couldn't, flip the switch. Maybe that's the break that he needs, if you want to phrase it that way. That being said, Russell Henley, tremendous play, top 20 in all the key metrics that we're looking at this week. Denny McCarthy really popping up because he has tremendous recent form, making 7 straight cuts in a row. All of them have been pretty good finishes, pretty good starts. One bad round there at the Honda Classic. 15 out of 18 made cuts in the season with multiple top 10 plays finishes. The worry with him as well, and that's going to be the theme. And that's where I kind of get worried about not doing studs and duds, is that he's 2 for 4 at this track. That's a worry. Top 10 specialist though as well. Cameron Davis popping up as a pretty strong play. You could roll with him. KH Lee is going to be good enough. Brian Harmon I'd be fine with, actually ranking out pretty well in some of the key stats that we're looking at. Good drive percentage, ball striking, top 10 in the field there. If you want to take the risk there, you can. Jaeger, oh man, got so lucky that Jaeger was mispriced last week at 6.7 because I was able to switch my build out, and I apologize for the sample build from last week. That was bad. Once the finalized player list came out, luckily I was able to be on Cantlay, Xander, Hatton, and Jaeger. Those are my 4 players that made the cut, and thankfully it was barely enough to cash, but it was enough to cash. He's someone I'd be fine going back to the well with this week. 4 straight make cuts for him. Taylor Moore, top 10 in recent form. Like, if you want to roll with him, you can. Like, that's the problem, is that like there's not a good enough conviction in the plays this week. It's just not there. That is the field that we have. So now let's drop down to low tier range. And for the most part, guys, I'm kind of happy just skipping over a majority of this pricing range in this low tier and just like dropping down to the almost 7K price point. Like, don't get me wrong, Benny Ann's ranking out pretty well. Brennan Todd, just coming off of a top 10 place finish prior to the PGA Championship, has 2 straight top 10 finishes at this track. You could definitely roll with him if you want to. Emiliano Grillo also had multiple top 10 finishes prior to a bad week last week. Has some pretty good starts at this track. Alex Smalley, someone that's popping up. Thomas Dietrich is a good enough play. Bo Hosler seems to really play well on Texas-based tracks. 21st last year. 6 straight make cuts for him. Like, he's the one player that I start to get a little bit excited about. You got Hayden Buckley popping up in there as well. Hayden Buckley, been very much hit or miss. Love the fact that we do have top 10 finishes out of him recently. Of course, history-wise, missed a cut last year, but he is a top 10 stat fit, ranking out top 20 in all the key metrics or key stats that we're looking at this week, which is obviously phenomenal, especially at this price point. You know, he's someone where we're starting to see that it might be worth the risk to be on him. Eric Cole has shown some recent upside. Ryan Palmer's been playing a little bit better. Like, there's so many okay options. I think Andrew Putnam, if healthy, would be someone we would certainly be looking at. Joseph Bremlett, also a guy that we could be looking at. Like, there's just so many similar plays that's tough to really go in on anyone too much. And that's kind of where I keep defaulting to. All right, we keep paying down because we keep getting around the same value that we would be. Vincent Norman is popping up again for some reason. He had a top 10 place finish there, and he also had a top 20 place finish. He has been someone that has been popping up a decent amount in the 9 to 5 mile. Top 20 play this week, like he was at the AT&T Byron Nelson. Take that for what it's worth. I think I'll be forced to play him this week after regretting not being on him much last week when he was kind of a clear cut, or last tournament when he was kind of a clear cut play, someone you should be on. And that's kind of it for that price point range. Like I said, like, it's kind of like, why not do a studs and duds build this week? So let's drop down. And so I do think Nate Lashley is actually a play that makes a lot of sense. So he's made 2 out of 4 cuts at this track, which is not great. And one of those made cuts was only a 69th place finish, so nothing great there. But he has made 4 straight cuts in a row, and he also is a top 20 stat fit as well. When you look at the 9 to 5 cheat sheet, he is one player that, when you look at the players around him, clearly stands out, especially in terms of the 9 to 5 model. Okay. Then from there, like Ben Martin, I guess I'd be fine with, but it might just be getting a little bit risky with some of these plays that, you know, have shown some recent upside, but also are looking like good stat fits, like Akshay, 43rd, 4th, miscut, 1 bad round there at the RBC Heritage, and then was rallying off some good starts there as well. So like, I'd be fine rolling with him. I actually might roll with 3 values this week. He'd be one of those. We got Austin as well, who's only made 50% of the cuts this season, but he has made 3 of those recently. And we also do see a 5th place finish at the Corrales, also a 2nd place finish at the AT&T Byron Nelson. My worry is that those were 2 easier tracks. How is he going to fare on a track like this that's a little bit more difficult? But he is a top 25 stat fit, so if you want to play him, you can. Michael Kim had a really shockingly bad 2nd round at the AT&T Byron Nelson. I say that because he'd been someone that had been playing extremely well, and that could be a blessing in disguise because now we are getting him at a pretty cheap price tag. If you want to roll with him, you can. I am on the fence if I want to play him or not. From there, we get Dylan Wu, who Dylan Wu is really popping up, guys, and he is a play that, by not doing this video on Monday, and I apologize for that, I was actually working on some site updates, and I'm not sure if I like them, honestly, so I haven't pushed them just yet. I don't know. Also went to a Brewers game. So this is what the 9 to 5 potential updated cheat sheet could look like. I just haven't decided if I love it just yet. Okay, it's all the same stuff that you have literally just seen. It's just a little bit easier to navigate. Like instead of having those golfers in there that only have 1 course history star, it'd be a little bit better to filter by. I don't know if I want to push that update just yet. So that's my long way of saying apologies for that, for coming out with this video later. That's the tough part. It's like, you got content creator, you got the business side of it. Took more of a business approach today. But looking at Dylan Wu, man, one bad round at the AT&T Byron Nelson, 73rd in the second round, still finished -3. Like, that is not a bad tournament. Okay, 40th best special, still top 35 in terms of recent form rank. And we can see prior to that, had been rallying off some good results. And what happened in his last missed cut prior to that? One bad round at the Farmers Insurance Open. Okay. That has kind of been the theme with him, is just ignoring those or avoiding those big numbers. 73, 74. We need a little bit more consistency out of him. But the fact that we're getting him at 66 and he's a top 40 play in the 95 mile this week, coming in as one of the best staff fits in the field, like Dylan Wu is just one of those plays that to me is going to be very difficult not to end up on. Okay. But we also do have some other plays that we could potentially be looking at. You got Mark Hubbard, who finished dead last in terms of players that made the cut at the PGA Championship, but has been playing well. 4 straight made cuts now. Actually, he missed a cut at team event, so that's not true. But if you don't consider that, then playing well, has made 3 straight cuts at this track. He's a guy that is going to make the cut more than 50% of the time on a season. If you want to roll with him, you can. Norlander has been playing a little bit better recently as well. Certainly someone you could end up on. Jimmy Walker had been playing well, but I would kind of be fine going back to the well with him. You didn't expect him to play well at the PGA Championship. Has kind of bad course history, 2 missed cuts and a top 20 finish. It's okay. Streelman has 2 out of 4 made cuts at this tournament. He's also someone that has been playing a little bit better recently, coming in as a top 55 player in the 95 mile this week. Like, certainly has a good chance to make the cut. You guys see the point that I'm making here is that we can find, and I didn't even get into this guy that we've been on a ton this season, and it's been pretty rewarding, Aaron Baddeley. But you guys can see the theme this week is that we have a lot of quality value plays, and it just seems like if DraftKings honestly could have priced everyone at the same price point, they would have, but obviously then it wouldn't be a DFS game. And that's kind of what it feels like this. And I think Aaron Baddeley just, playing some really strong golf is going to be a very interesting click this week. The only course history that he has was the 48th place finish 4 years ago. So we don't really care too much about that, but across the board, coming in as a top 50 pick in the 95 mile at 6.4, this will certainly allow us to be able to afford to pay up for whichever studs we want to. Adam Long is a name that's made 3 out of 4 cuts. Like, there's a lot of names down here. Zach Johnson, you can end up on. Tyler Duncan, I mentioned. All players that I think have a decent chance. And then it would literally, let's get into the first look build here. It would literally be as easy as, well, if you like Jordan Spieth, you could click Jordan Spieth in there. 9.8 left over. If you want to play Sanjay, if you want to play Burns, you could do that. Maybe you want to go Tony Finau, you could play him. You got 9K left over. You can end up on Ricky. Like, I am perfectly fine with that build. It's a pretty nice looking build there. You kind of avoid some of the risky, higher price plays to then be able to afford to pay up for some of the really strong plays this week, like Victor Hovland, like Tony Finau, like Jordan, if you wanted to do that. So for now, this is going to be one of my favorite kind of lineup paths. Maybe you like a different value play a little bit more. That's going to be for you guys to decide. So guys, some weeks the core plays are core plays in the sense that, yes, these guys are phenomenal. They're going to go on and play well. We just know that. To me, that's going to be Scottie Scheffler, obviously the highest price player in the slate. He just ranks out so well. The only bad data that we have coming in on him is going to be the starts from 2 and 3 years ago at this track. Other than that, phenomenal. Nothing to worry about. A tremendous play. I think if we can find ways to pay up for him, which I just showed you guys, you could. I think we want to be doing that. At the same time, Tony Finau and Victor Hovland are also both plays that I do think we should be going out of our way to play. They're the top 3 highest priced players on the slate. They're the top 3 players in the 9-5 model. None of them really have any true worries too much, and that's why they're priced this way. So from there, we are going to get a little bit different in terms of like the core plays, because to me, it's not in the aspect of these are elite plays, we're going to get elite results out of them. It's more in the fact that these good enough plays allow us to be able to pay up for those better plays that have a higher likelihood of top 10. One of those players is going to be Aaron Baddeley, dipping back into the Baddeley well, if you will. 11 out of 14 made cuts on the season. He's been someone that has really been good enough or been a cut sweat for us a lot. Hopefully he can come through again for us this week. And then looking at Dylan Wu, he's just going to be a pretty good staff hit across the board. Just been playing well. Doesn't have any course history. That's a little bit of a worry. For the most part, his recent form has been solid. I mentioned the missed cuts that he's had. That's really come down to one bad round. If he can avoid that bad round, we should be in for a pretty good result there. And so I'm perfectly fine ending up on him as well. And then for what it's worth, since I came out with this video a little bit later, let's just take a peek at ownership real quick. Ownership leverage, nothing too crazy this week. No one too high owned or too low owned. Let's just look up here real quick. Yeah, we might be defaulting to Tony Finau over Scotty this week. That's interesting there. This is kind of how I like to use it, by the way. Just look at the salary, see if there's anyone vastly over-owned in comparison or under-owned in comparison. Like we can see Tommy Fleetwood, probably someone we should be trying to play. Then maybe go with Benny Ann over Kitayama, maybe Brennan Todd, almost getting to 10%. Thomas Dietrich over, Billy Horschel you could potentially be on. So just a good way to go about using that. But that's going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, you know what to do. Give that like and subscribe. That does help out the channel a lot. Let's have a good Charles Schwab challenge. Good luck to you guys this week. And as always, let's keep cashing.